not ready to go yet, okay? I'm not ready. You gotta wait. I got shit to do. I'm in the middle of something, all right? Just hold on.
Watch your mouth or don't come in here.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, people, come on, we're adults here.
You know what? What is the point?
Yeah, we're adults here. I got a fucking Burger King fucking thing on my head. We're all fucking adults here, guys. People in my chat, 2 words. What are they? 2 words. Let me see the chat flood. Let me see the chat flood. 2 words. Okay, next caller. Please. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, which translate in American to dick and balls.
I got flip-flops. These are my flip-flops. Yeah, I really like my flip-flops because I can put them on. Because look, watch me put them on. I can put them on all by myself. Watch me put them on. Look, are you watching? Look, these are my flip-flops.
Thanksgiving Day. I remember it clearly. It was Thanksgiving Day. I was inserting myself in somebody else's fucking business as a cash grab, and you know. This channel is harsh reality. Karen Yak se jodió la sucia vida. Amen.
This is Jonathan Lee Riches. I have cheeseburgers. I'm gonna put cheese on them. I'm gonna make sure that I have my hamburgers because I'm a big boy now and I can make the hamburgers. My mom lets me use the stove now.
And I'm just like, wow, I like receipts, and they brought receipts. Like they had evidence to back up everything they said. And I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be another side to this, right? Like this can't. No, this is too fantastic.
Yeah, because you're not going to just jump to the conclusion that there's a conspiracy amongst cops to cover up a murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean cops and just like soccer moms and shit. Like that's what made it even crazier. Like,
yeah, get it, Betty. Yeah,
did you have a close relationship with your mom?
Get it, Betty.
Oh, of course, I still do.
Yeah.
My older sister was kind of sad. She was more of the prissy girl that likes going.
That is the best shit fucking
shopping
ever.
for dresses with mommy. I was the tomboy that liked playing with the kids.
Shout out to Cherry for just being easily the most faithful and loyal supporter that I've ever had. That someone could have that tenacity with loyalty. And I'm really blessed to have someone like Cherry be part of this channel and in my life. So it means a lot. And yes, I named him after Mr. T and Rocky. Say, woman. Say, woman. Say, woman. Since your old man ain't got no heart, why don't you come down to my apartment tonight and I'll show you a real man. Oh my God, I'm so in love with this little dude. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. I love you guys very, 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 very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends. Oh, say bye. Say bye. Oh, I love you too. Give me a kiss. Oh, I love you. Bye, guys. Woo! Good evening, people. It's been a minute. It's good to see you guys. I hope everybody's doing very well. I'm doing pretty well. I hope everybody's having a great start to their week. So we're I'm not going to spend too much time chitter-chatting because I got somebody waiting backstage. I don't want to keep her waiting too long. I'll get to that in just a second, though. Real quick, we gotta give a shout out, people, to the Canton 9 people. The Canton 9, it's over. They're done. There's no probable cause. They are vindicated. They are free. So no more hashtags of free the Canton 9 because they are free. You guys are all amazing. So now we just need Turtle Boy and Karen Reed to be vindicated, and then we need to really focus on, and we need to start now, but more than ever, focus on getting Sandra Birchmore's name and information out there because this is a problem. And Street Squirrel got my letter today. I'm free. I love it. This is fantastic. Guys, the Canton 9, y'all. I love it. I love it. Today's a good day. Now, before I bring my guest on, okay, you guys know her. Her name is Mizzy, and she is all things Sandra Birchmore. Now, I know enough about this case to be pissed off about it. That's definitely the case here. But I don't know enough about it, and I want to know as much as I possibly can about it. And I'm going to approach this very similar to how I approached the John O'Keefe Karen Reed case, Officer John O'Keefe, that is. And I'm just going to kind of learn as I go. And I couldn't think of a better way than to bring up the authority on information as far as the Sandra Birchmore case goes, and that would be Mizzy. And so, just like the title says, Mizzy is here basically just to school me on this case because I'm invested, and I expect that after today, I'm going to be even more invested, and I'm going to continue to cover the hearings. I'm going to continue to use my platform to bring as much attention on this case as much as I possibly can, and I cannot stress enough how grateful I am to Mizzy for coming up here and taking the time to explain to myself and all of us the details of this case. So without any further ado, I am going to go ahead and bring Mizzy on. Hi, Mizzy.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. It means the world to many of us that you're here explaining how horrific this case is. Because what I know about it, it's troubling to say the least.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us when did you first start talking about this case? When did you what got your attention about this in the first?
In about 2022 in September, they dropped the internal report, and the news stations picked it up for a few days. And I happened to be editing a video because I'm a small creator. So, and I was doing like interviews, but not lives. I was doing so I could cut some stuff in there. And I saw the news report and I was like, my mind just like exploded. I was like yelling at my TV. And her friend,
really, from the initial news report?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Because I mean, because initially there was no, they were just saying suicide. There was no anything about, you know, her, any possibility of it being questionable. But from the get-go, day one, I was like, nope, he murdered her. And
how did you, what made you think that so immediately, just from hearing a news report though?
Her friend came on the screen and she was talking about Sandra, and just, I don't know exactly what she said that made me, I said right to her friend, I said, no, he murdered your friend. And it was just, I started looking up her case and there was nothing there. There was nothing, there was a few stories here and there. And then her case went away. Like the news stopped covering it right away. And I was like, this is insane. Even if you don't look at her death portion, 3 cops, you know, groomed a young woman. You know, one of them started assaulting her at 15. And then like it goes on from there. And I was like, why? And I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? That should have been a national news story.
I mean, did they talk about that? I mean, I wonder if I can even find it. Like, did they even discuss that when they first?
Yeah.
It's bizarre, man.
Yeah, it's like, it's, and like there was a few articles, there was a few things, but like I would go to bed thinking about Sandra's case. But like I said, I was editing another case, so I couldn't really jump into her case, but I would still think about her. And I would, you know, I'd wake up. I don't know if I would dream about her, but I would wake up and I'd be like, oh man, I got to look into that case. I got to look into that case. I got to reach out and try to contact family members, see if I could get an interview with somebody. And I was just
when did this first come out?
September. The report dropped. I don't know the exact date, but I know it was September 22.
Wow.
Yeah. I know BC Channel 4, they have that's the one that I watched on YouTube, on TV.
Okay, because what I'm seeing is stuff from a year ago. And I guess based on what I'm looking at here, it doesn't look like it came out immediately that she had this inappropriate relationship with them.
No, because they were investigating. They investigated it for a long time for the internal report. And then that's when the internal report dropped, you know, a lot of the local stations covered it for like 1 or 2 days. It was like a blip. And I was like, this is insane. And my friend who lives in North Carolina, her son was murdered. If anybody wants to look that case up, it's Brandon Embry. But she messaged me and she goes, what's up with that Sandra Birchmore case? And this was the early 2023. And I was like floored. I'm like, how the fuck does she know about this? But she was talking to the guys from the case. They were interviewing her about covering her son's case. And then they decided to pick up Sandra's case because it was a local case. And she said, yeah, there's a podcast called The Case. And I was like, oh shit. So I was like, you know, I went and listened to it. Her and I were like, this is insane. Why is nobody doing anything? Why is nobody covering this case? You know, I went on Facebook. There was no Facebook page for her. We started looking. I did like a virtual tour of her apartment to see, you know, because they were saying she hung herself by her closet doorknob. And I'm like,
have you ever, we're going to get into all that. But have you ever like taken a deep dive into a case like you have this one before? Have there been any other cases that that got your attention this much?
well,
to where you started to just, okay, all right, I'm going to look at this, and then I'm going to take a virtual tour of the apartment. Then I'm going to do this. Is there any other case that made you take those kind of steps?
Yeah, because I was on my show. Like I said, I'm a small creator. I was interviewing families of loved ones who had been murdered. So I would get all the case files as much as I can from the family. And I would, you know, start doing as much research as I could about the town and stuff like that.
Different cases, right?
What'd you say?
Different cases, though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was. Yeah. But Brandon Embry's case, I did work on that case for a while, and like I said, I'm still friends with his mom, and she would always, I told her any help you need, let me know, and I would like help her. Like she'd be like, hey, can you email a bunch of people? Can you look up this? And I'd be like, sure. So I would help her after. Like I used to say he owned my heart because he was my first case, and he will always have a little piece of my heart.
Sure.
And but yeah, but it would be more like I would interview a family, I would dive into that case, they would give me everything they had. I wasn't even doing FOIAs because the families would give me all the information.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't even have to like go out of my comfort zone of like, getting anything from the police or anything like that. And like I said, Brandon Embreeze is probably the one that I dove into the most, but I did dive into the other ones too. But not for Brandon's case. I did in 2021. So I have kept up with his case, but every other case I've kind of, they've kind of fallen up the map for me because I've been doing Sandra's case for so long now. I started the page. I can't remember if it was February or March. I started the Facebook page because Sarah said to me, her and I dove into the case for like 2 or 3 weeks. We started, like I said, we did virtual tours of her apartment. We were looking to see how much teaching assistants made. We were just trying to find as much information as we could that was on the internet. I read the internal report. I did a FOIA request for the Massachusetts State Police report, and it took forever to get that. And then it kind of hit the ground running from there. It's tough because I have a lot of health issues, so I'm disabled, so I can't be on the ground, but I'm kind of glad I can't be on the ground as much because I would probably be in trouble.
You don't need to be. Yeah.
That's my personality. I'm a very outspoken.
Sure.
I can be aggressive when I'm passionate about something. So with how they are in that area,
you're clearly tenacious. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Because you're clearly tenacious, and you're clearly tenacious because you're passionate about this case. Definitely. So I would imagine that, it might be difficult for you to control your emotions if you're face to face with somebody who is a dirty motherfucker. You know what I mean? I would imagine so.
Let's put it this way. Cherry had messaged me about the hearing that was last week, and I overslept, so I didn't even get it till later, and I didn't even get to watch the hearing till I came on and I rewound yours, and I watched it while you were still alive, and I was screaming like a mad woman. I was like, I am so glad I didn't go on because I would have had to turn my camera off and put mute because I was like, just how they were trying to say that her name doesn't have to be used. And I understand why. I'm the type of person who I can look at the other side, but it still made me very angry because I'm very close to this.
Yeah, on my end, because I should explain, and Cherry can vouch for this. On my end, I get pretty mad too. And sometimes I let you guys see it, but there are other times, like if I'm covering that, like I'm really focused on trying to understand. And at the same time, I was seeing what this lawyer was doing, and I was like, it sucks. And it makes him a shitbag, but I get what he's doing. You know what I mean?
I get it too. But
because if we're going to cover these hearings, I have to let my audience know, like, hey, it's important that we understand what's happening and why it's happening.
Yeah.
But trust me, there are times, and that was one of those times where I have to be cool for the sake of making sure that nobody is just irrationally yelling at the screen and not understanding what's going on, and just focused on say her name, and not understanding why he's not, and why he's pushing that he doesn't.
And I was not.
But
able
trust
to
me, the fact that he was arguing to keep her name out was infuriating in and of itself.
Yeah,
clearly it was.
And the way the judge was acting too, I did not like the judge. So I'm like, I am so glad that because people would have seen that spicy side of me. Because this is not about me. This is about Sandra. And it's hard as a person to take your ego out of a situation. And I try to make everything about Sandra.
Right.
Hi, Microdots.
Yeah, man. Microdots is the man. Yeah, and real quick, I know you got some stuff coming up in the works. Obviously, Microdots doesn't like to give too much away. But you and Microdots are behind the scenes, and it's in its conceptual phase right now of some stuff that's going to happen between the two of you guys to get Sandra's information out there, right?
Yes, and I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, that's going to be very effective, and I'm going to do everything I can to share it out too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because this is exactly what this is for. Because I really want to get myself educated and understanding this case better, because I want to keep talking about it, and I don't, it's kind of mind blowing that this case is where it is, and you're the only one talking about it, like in consistently and all the time. You know what I mean? So once it's working, because some bigger creators have taken it on. I know my friend Annie from 10 to Life, she's talked about it. She didn't even put the cases together. I brought it up to her. She goes, "Oh yeah." I was at the gym and we were texting, and she was like, and I was like, "Have you looked into the Sandra Birchmore case?" She's like, "Yeah, I just did a video on the Sandra Birchmore case like not too long ago." And I was like, "You realize that some of the same police officers in that case are the same in the Officer John O'Keefe investigation involving Karen Reed?" And she goes, "No way." And she hadn't put that together yet. And then she did a second video on Sandra Birchmore after that. So and I hadn't watched it yet. So I'm imagining that she was already talking about how shady the whole thing was in the first place. And if I know Annie, and I do, she's definitely focused on that. And that's the thing, in my opinion, that everyone needs to be focused on right now, is that the reason why this young woman is not getting justice is because of people who are in power who could be implicated. And this is why we're talking about the Karen Reed case at this point too.
Yeah. It's now just the Karen Reed case, in where how the cover up of her crime, just like John's death, it's the same. It's Michael Morrissey's office and the people, the trickle down effect underneath Michael Morrissey, and it's the same kind of. They did the same thing to Sandra's case as they did to John's case. And
wow.
It's and with like me and some of the people who I work with, we say that they framed Sandra too, but for her own death. Just like Karen was
right.
framed.
Yeah. That's definitely
Sandra killed herself.
I mean, because it is, I mean, if somebody didn't commit suicide, you're really just besmirching their name by accusing them of it. Suicide is no joke, and it's not something to take lightly. And the truth is, it's no less than murder. Because there are people who most of the time we're focused on how sad it is to lose that person, but there's also that anger that nobody really talks about. It's that anger because that person took themselves away from loved ones. It's not just their life. It's you affected other people's lives who you've touched.
Yeah.
So I have really strong feelings about depression and suicide and things of that nature, and I can see exactly how in that case, and to use to use that reality, to use that very accurate I guess synopsis, for lack of a better word, is, yeah, I mean, they framed her for her own murder. That's she's not a murderer. And depending on how you feel about unborn babies, one could say that you're accusing her of murdering her own child, especially when she supposedly was very happy about her pregnancy, and wanted to raise this baby, and was very excited about raising this baby. What okay, so let's go back to the beginning again.
Okay.
When okay, so you heard that you saw this news clip, you're yelling at your TV. What exactly was it that made you yell at your TV when you were watching the news clip? Was it that I mean, because it hadn't been made public yet that she had was in a relationship or an inappropriate relationship with these officers, was it?
That's what this report was about.
Oh, okay.
It was right when the Stoughton internal report dropped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Like 3 cops abused this young girl. And then I was yelling at my TV, but I wasn't quite like a raving lunatic once her friend started talking. And I started saying it's because she was murdered. I just knew in my gut. Did
you get in contact with her immediately?
I tried to contact her. Actually, I tried to find her, but I couldn't find her. And then I believe I have contacted her, tried to contact her since. I messaged so many of her friends and family, and there's only a few that have gotten back to me. And part of the thing people got to understand is her family thought she was just dating a married cop. They didn't know the backstory. They didn't know about the grooming. So she had been.
I mean, yeah, she's a victim, period.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they didn't understand. They didn't know this. So they were angry at her because they're like, what are you doing? Why are you with this guy? You know.
Okay, so let's sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
It's just that I realize there's going to be people who are not familiar with this case at all. So let's give us a quick summary of why we're here and what we're talking about.
Okay, quick summary of Sandra. She was born in Boston. She grew up in Stoughton, Massachusetts. She had a single mom. She lived with her mom, her aunts, her grandmother. She had gone through some behavioral programs at her school at the age of about 9. It was a program for her mother to learn how to connect with her child, and also for Sandra to learn some coping skills. And it was basically just a great program to try to get parents and children to work their issues out. And then when she was 13, Sandra wanted to be a police officer. She absolutely adored the police. So the next progression was there was the Stoughton Police Department had an explorers group there. So her mom thought she was sending her to the perfect place to, get some knowledge about being a police officer, some structure. No parent thinks that they're going to send their child to go.
I mean, that's a great plan.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, I mean, take away what we already know. Like, let's just, I mean, for the sake of the people who don't know, I mean, you've got you've got a girl with behavioral issues. I can relate to that, and she expresses, I guess, to a counselor, or her mom or whoever says, I really want to be a police officer. That's what I dream about. That's what I'd love to do. And they say, okay, well, this is a great way to get you on track. There happens to be locally at the Stoughton Police Station, there's an explorers program where you can go and you can just kind of experience in a safe manner. Someone your age can experience more or less the ins and outs of being a police officer, and you can decide if this is something that you really want to do, which seems like an incredibly positive experience.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, please go on.
That's okay. One of the things I want to mention that we're trying to figure out, Robert Devine had groomed other children. I've spoken to one. If you've
Who
read
is
the
Robert
report,
Devine?
he is the one who led the Police Explorers group.
Okay.
He ended up becoming the deputy chief at one point, but he got knocked back down to patrolman after another sex scandal. But
This is before Sandra Birchmore?
that was during Sandra. He got about, I can't remember, it was 2014 or 15. He got knocked back down. But he was leading the
So
program.
wait a second. There was already the person who is in charge of the Explorers program, while Sandra Birchmore was a minor and in this Explorers program, she this man was accused of inappropriate behavior with the Explorers and with children?
Not with the Explorers. It was a woman he was having an affair with.
Okay.
And it was it's a crazy story. Him and his wife tried to frame her to make it look like that she was stalking him and doing all this stuff when it was really them doing it to her. And yeah, they ruined this young woman's life. And it was so bad that he got knocked down from deputy chief back to a patrolman. They should have gotten rid of him, but they didn't. Yeah. So that you're already realizing this, me saying that this man is shady as fuck. So he was running the program, but there is a witness that I've spoken to a few times. She was groomed by him. It is in the Stoughton report.
Okay.
And, it was when he was an SRO officer and he was leading the program. It was the first year that he took over the program. And he was the SRO officer. He was also running a after-school program at the junior high school, and the kids could go play in the gym, and that was the program. Well, also the Farwell brothers were in the first year of the Explorers program that he ran, and they would come over and hang out with the junior high kids. So the girl that he was grooming, he took her in the back. She had the biggest crush on him, and he knew this.
You're talking about Divine.
Yes.
Okay.
Divine took her in a closet. It was like a closet office. He picked her up and put her on the desk. She was upset because he was about to get married, and he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. When you turn 18, I'll take you out on a date. You're a knockout." Said all this stuff, kissed her on the forehead, and that's grooming stuff. And he would flirt with her. I was told that one time she went to visit him in his office at the station, and one of the other police officers, she was wearing like a low-cut shirt. Mind you, she's 12. Low-cut shirt, and the officer kicked her out. Like another officer said, "Get out of there," She had girls come up to her and tell her, "Don't talk to Robert again. He's mine." Like teenagers. Yes. And he would ride around with girls in his car, his private car, and his patrol car. In part of the program, that's something you would do, but children aren't supposed to be riding around in the car alone with them. They're supposed to be like another student or another instructor. They're not supposed to be alone with him.
Wow.
So he was already doing shady stuff. Now this witness
and unless there was, that could just be stuff that, unless there were actually allegations that came about, which there were eventually, but that could just be stuff that people would overlook and just be like, he's bending the rules. It's not that big a deal, whatever. It's fine. He's a police officer. But the problem is, the reason why these rules exist is just because these things do happen regardless of whether they're cops or priests. So Jesus, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mind you, like I said, the Farwells were in the program his first year of taking over the program. They were in the first class with this young woman that he was grooming. And she told me, and when she told me this, I got the chills. She said he was grooming the Farwells just like he was grooming her, but he was grooming them to be predators, not victims. And
Right. He
read,
wanted accomplices.
yeah,
He
yeah,
wanted
he wanted
he wanted to
understudies.
be able to do what he does
Yep.
freely and bring people in on it. So he's not going to get in trouble. There's nobody to snitch on him. And B, they could be implicated just as easily as he can. And these predators, they work in groups too. I mean, when you
Yep.
hear about these predators, they work in groups as far as like there's a buddy system, as I understand it. Like on the dark web, you hear about
Yep.
this.
Yeah, they trade gross pictures and videos.
Oh my God. Jesus.
And he would, like, I believe it was William, he made a lieutenant, and he made I can't remember what Matthew's position was, but he was making them, giving them power above the other explorers. So they were leading the group in exercises and things like that. So they were already being uplifted higher than the other students. He was giving these young men who had behavior issues power, and they didn't get along with their peers. When I spoke to two of their classmates, and they both said they were fucking assholes. And
well, right, you give kids with behavioral issues power over other kids. Well, I mean, who knows? Those behavioral issues could be that they're sociopaths for all you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
but they were this was the high school students who didn't get along with them. These guys were hanging out at the junior high, because that's where Divine was. So to the junior high school kids, they didn't know that they were losers around their friends, I'm not friends, but their peers, their classmates, because they just thought, these 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds think they're just the cool older boys coming over, and Divine thinks they're cool, so they're cool. So there is a history of him grooming other children. I believe there is more than that. I've been told there are other children, but I have not spoken to any other child yet.
Yeah, and from the little bit that I know, as far as Boston, because Boston is where the Catholic Church was exposed in their scandal. And I mean, from what I understand of that, it was very difficult because of how Boston is and how the residents in Boston are, that they're not the quickest to come forward and tell their story. They're ashamed. They think it's something to be ashamed of. They think that they've done something wrong. So that right there makes it, I would imagine, even more frustrating to be able to implicate the people responsible and stop them from doing it again when you don't have victims who are willing to come forward.
Well, it's also who do these victims go to? The police.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, so yeah, if it's cops, who do they trust? I mean, any police station, they still, they're kids. So they're just going to look at police as an entity in and of itself. They're not going to go, oh, well, let me check with the Canton Police Department, since it's the Stoughton Police Department that I'm having a problem. Let me go to the Massachusetts State Police, since it's the Stoughton Police that I have a problem. They're not going to have the sense to do that. They're just going to go, what if I tell this cop and then he's friends with that cop? And oh God, Jesus.
So that's how that relationship, that like how the Farwells and Divine, their twisted relationship was, and so this is what Sandra was coming to, because Divine was still running the program. And at this point, Matthew and William, Matthew was a police officer, William, I think, was becoming a police officer, and they were coming in as guest instructors, and then once they were with Stoughton, they became instructors. So it's like they have these two guys who were, they were, I can't remember the exact terminology, but they were basically bomb techs in the Army. So, they're bringing in all their bomb equipment and doing, show and tells and showing them all, how they defuse a bomb and all this stuff. And like, of course, kids are going to be like, wow, these guys are cool, you know?
Of course.
And so at 13, these men started grooming Sandra when she entered the program. And
Okay.
then at 15, Matthew Farwell started statutory raping Sandra. And I have not been able to pinpoint exactly when the other two started abusing her.
I mean, she was 13, right?
When they started grooming her, yes.
Like, I mean, I guess the technical term is statutory rape. I still call it molestation. She's a baby.
Well,
God.
yeah. At 15 is when Matthew started.
Oh, at 15. Okay.
15. The age of consent in Massachusetts is 16. They were just
Okay.
grooming her at 13.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at 15 he started statutory raping her, or however you want to say it, rape, molesting. And then I can't, like I said, I have not been able to pinpoint the exact time when Divine and William, but it's a lot sooner than
Matthew.
they've been saying, because one, I don't know if you caught it in the hearing last week. I think it was his lawyer slipped and said something along the lines about her being a teenager. And I spoke to one of her friends, and she said that it started a lot earlier than they were saying, which I already knew, but it's good to have a witness tell you that she was talking to Sandra.
Well, and how do you believe anything they say either? Like, if that's their word,
of course,
you know, like I'm gonna be like, oh, they're gonna dress it up to make themselves look as innocent as possible.
Exactly. So she says, I think 2017, 18 is when with William, it started. So in 2016, Sandra's mother dies and her grandmother dies. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And within months of each other. And then 2019, her aunt.
Can you imagine what that does to the psyche of a young girl who's already going through what she's already been through?
And I mean, like, Sandra grew up with her mom. She had a lot of health issues. And so, she did have to pitch in and help her. But for her, the two pillars of her being, she loved her grandmother. She loved her mother. And they were both gone. And then 3 years later, in 2019, her aunt passes away. She was also in the household. And yeah. Oh my God. And there are a lot of other family members who had passed away. So this family had lost a lot.
So I mean, it's not unreasonable to assume that she probably was blaming herself in some way, shape, or form. That why does everyone close to me die? What is wrong with me? Yeah. Because a lot of kids think this way. Jesus, God, I can't even imagine. So she's just looking for acceptance anywhere she can get it,
and love, and a place to be. And these men took advantage of that. They just swooped in and took it.
Clearly,
I
mean, that's it. That's the MO. That's the. I mean, when you think about it, and you can, she's exactly the perfect victim.
Yeah, I've been saying that, and also because they like girls who were young. Sandra, when she was 9, I mean, when she was 13, she looked like she was like 9. She was very petite, tiny, and she just looked like a child, like a little child.
Oh my God.
And then, so when she's like 15, she looked like she was 12 or 13. So it's like, and even when she was 23, when she died, she still
on top of everything we just discussed, she's going through these changes in her life, but she's doing it slower than everyone else. So she has these growing pains on top of insecurity issues magnified by 1,000, because she's developing slower than most girls her age, on top of everything else.
Well, and
Jesus. I mean, again, she's the perfect victim. This is
it's heartbreaking that she was, but she was like the perfect victim for these guys. And you also got to understand that grooming stunts you. So she was very smart, very quirky, and she was goofy, but she was also kind of played young, her, like socially young for her age, she did feel more comfortable around adults. That also plays into them, her being a perfect victim. I had a family member tell me that, at family gatherings, she would try to hang out with the adults and they'd be like, go play with your cousins. And so that helped play into the interaction with these guys. So and then 2020 comes around.
Did Divine start the program?
No, the program was in place, but he took over the program in 2021-22.
Okay.
So
all right.
but
Sorry, I was looking at chat, and then so I mean, I'm because I'm going through a little thing in my head where I'm trying to figure out, did he start the program so he could groom kids, or did he join the program so that he could groom kids? But apparently, I mean, what else are you going to think? You think that, I mean, there's no way to sit here and think, oh, this guy actually cared about, training the future police officers of America. Yeah. Bullshit. No, because if he did, then he wouldn't interfere with them.
Exactly. And also you got to realize he was an SRO officer, so he was in the junior high school, and he ran the after school program, and he ran this program. Why did he want to be around children so much?
Right. I mean, yeah, this isn't somebody who believes the children are the future, teach them well, let them lead the way kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's just looking for easy targets.
Yeah.
He's looking for targets. He's a predator. He's a classic predator.
Because of the program that Sandra was in when she was a child, he was an SRO officer. He had the ability to look at kids' files.
Right. So he could see what psychological issues they were suffering from.
Yes.
He could see what issues they were having with their families. And he could play off these things. He could use these things and weaponize these things.
Exactly.
Jesus, that's so evil.
Yep. That's why he's the big bad, even though Matthew, I believe, is the one. I believe he did murder her. Even though he is the one who, at 15 started sexually abusing her and then murdered her. Divine is the big bad,
Yeah, clearly.
So in 2020, obviously everybody knows the pandemic hit. Her aunt sold the house, the family home, and she said, you need to find some other place to another place to live. That's why she moved into the apartment in Canton.
Okay.
She moved in there late November, early December. So she was only in that apartment for like 2 months because she died, at a little over 2 months. She died February 1st. So it was only a short period of time she was actually in that apartment living in Canton. And, Matthew Farwell is the one who helped her move into the apartment. So, and I found out that, some things that happened with Matthew, this is how twisted he is. He would have Sandra babysit his children so him and his wife could go out. So he brought Sandra into his home, knowing that he was doing this with Sandra behind his wife's back. So that's twisted. It's like,
it's incredibly twisted.
It's like you're bringing this young woman into your home almost to laugh behind your wife's back and be like, haha, I'm hooking up with this girl on the side, And she had babysat a few times. It wasn't like it was a one-off. She had babysat a few times. And
what kind of a piece of shit does that? I mean, that's also, you're really putting your own children at risk too. Because if you have, and this is not to say anything negative about Sandra, but you have somebody who you're preying off of the fact that she is unstable. So you're preying off of this. You're depending on this particular character trait of hers in order to take advantage of her, but you're going to leave your children with this person who has feelings for you, who feels like who's going to clearly envy the situation she's going to get in that situation as a kid and think this should be mine. He loves me. He doesn't love her. Because I mean, I am only speculating as to what he could have possibly been saying to her to keep her around and get her to babysit his kids, which is most likely, I love you, not her. We're probably going to get a divorce soon. It's just, we can't do it because of this. We can't do it because of that just yet. But hold on, baby. Soon. And in the meantime, she's sitting here thinking all of this is mine, you know? And I mean, she could, you know, if she feels like the kids are what's keeping him from being with her, those kids could be in danger, you know? And he didn't care. You know, this is unreal.
And it's like they use her mental health issues as a shield and a sword. You can't say she, you know, oh, this girl she had, you know, had a lot of mental health issues. She was crazy. And then on the side, you're hooking up with her. You're using her. You're abusing her. You're using your power over her. You can't say she's crazy. Oh, she's obsessed with us. And then be doing this and saying, you know, you can't use it as a shield and a sword. And that's one of the things that they're going to use in the civil case. They're going to come for her with guns blazing, and it's going to get ugly in the civil case when they start.
Clearly what they're going to try to do is discredit her. And they're starting, and they're aiming big. We know this now because they're already, I mean, right out of the gate, they're trying to keep her name from being used. And now it's not in her civil case, but that's in the case to
the post commission to decide whether or not the Farwells can remain active on as police officers. Really, it's Robert Devine and William. Matthew thankfully already bowed out. So Matthew is fully decertified, and he's on a national list that says, you know, you shouldn't hire him.
Okay.
So he's fully decertified. The other two, I guess their case is coming up. Their actual trial will be in November, I believe. That Williams. I don't know when Roberts is. We'll find out. His next hearing is on the 20th. So, and he'll be there. So not like William didn't show up to the hearing last week. Devine will be there because he was at the last one.
Jesus. All right. Now let's get into the more difficult stuff here. So she moves into this apartment.
Yep.
She moves into this apartment. Matthew Farwell helps her move in. Yep. She's babysitting his kids. And you know, being talked down to as, you know, as the help by his wife, most likely, you know, even if she's being kind, she's still looking at her like the little, you know, the help who's helping with my kids, whatever. And so, you know, now, but
she gets pregnant.
Is the abuse okay? The abuse is clearly still going on because she gets pregnant.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And at this point, she was hooking up with all three of them, and she was meeting them on duty, having sex in patrol cars.
And all three of them were aware of each other and each other's individual relationship with her.
Yeah.
And I hate using the word relationship. Excuse me.
Yeah, I hate you. It's like you want to vomit in your mouth when you.
Right.
Her friend told me that there was an incident that happened. This is wild. That because they would track her phone. They had tracking on her phone. I haven't been able to find out which one it is, but I was thinking it might have even been something like Life 360. You know, but they were tracking her, and one of the Farwells showed up because he was tracking her, and the other end was hooking up with her in the back of a patrol car.
I don't understand. Like, this is so gross. Like, because that's clearly a predatory. I mean, there's nothing pure about it. Like, I mean, look, I have a brother, right? We're 2 years apart.
Yep.
And if I know that my brother slept with a girl, like, say I'm talking to a girl and then I find out later on that my brother had slept with her, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it. Nope. I ew. You know what I mean? I don't even care how casual it was.
Yeah.
I don't. Nope. She's like, she's untouchable. She's tainted. She's stained. Like, can't.
Yep.
she's tattooed with no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't. I don't. So you got these twin brothers, and then another guy who are passing her around like a
It's been
bottle.
said in one of the reports, they were from the lawyer, her lawyer, that said they were passing her around like a toy.
Jesus. And okay, so, and we believe that Matthew Farwell is the father of the child, right? How do we know this? And if we do, if we don't really know it, how do we know it wasn't one of the other two guys?
We don't 100% know, but she believed that he was the father, and she was telling him he was the father.
Okay.
He found out in December, actually right before Christmas, he found out she was pregnant, and he was not happy. He did not want her to have a baby. But people got to understand, as I was saying before, a lot of family members had passed away. She wanted this child. She wanted family. You know, she does have extended family. She has a lot of cousins and, you know, other relatives, but she didn't have like a close nucleus, you know, mom, dad, grandmother type deal family. And that's all she wanted. She wanted desperately to have this child, and he did not want this child. And people got to understand, his wife was also pregnant at that time. So she was about to have a baby. So he was like, no. They were getting into arguments because she wanted him to sign the birth certificate. You know, she was going to want support, and he was like, no. And they had gotten to a couple altercations where, like, he snatched the phone out of her hand, and because she said she was going to call his wife. And he was like, you know, he told her, I don't remember which time it was, but one of the times he shoved her, and I don't know if it was this time or the other time. He said, as he was leaving, I wish you were dead. I hope you kill yourself, or something along those lines.
Wow.
She told one of her friends this.
Wow.
And then a month and a half later, she's dead. Or a couple weeks later, she's dead.
And so, okay. Now let's get to this part, because this is the most difficult part. So let's get to the day of. Now I'm gonna play this because I know some people are not familiar yet. So this is, and you can walk us through it. I just had this. Oh my goodness, this is annoying. Sorry, give me a second here.
That's
Let
okay.
me find.
I can actually talk while you're looking for it.
Please.
On February 1st, this is when this video takes place. It shows the last moments of Sandra's life on film, the last time she's seen. And then it'll show him arriving. It's the last time she's seen. It's like your stomach drops, because you know this is the last time she's seen alive.
Yeah. All right. So, wow, this is, yeah. This video never gets easier to watch. So, trigger warning, guys. This is the last moments of Sandra Birchmore caught on video. This is the security camera footage from the lobby in her apartment building. And
That
so
was
here's,
she got a sub, I believe.
it looks like male, but okay.
And people got to understand too, if you look in the back room, there's snow in the back. Canton got a foot of snow between the first and the second.
Now,
this is the last time she's seen on film.
Right here. Now, I don't know about you, because this is the first time. This is not the first time I've watched this video, but for those of you who are watching this for the first time, I don't know about you, Mizzy, but I don't know a whole lot of people who are just about to commit suicide and then go out and make sure that their car is drivable in the snow by what looks like to me, what tools that would be used to, I don't know, clean off her windshield, clean the snow off.
Yep.
It seems as though she has every intention of coming back downstairs at some point.
Yeah.
This is not, I mean, she bundled up. She looks somewhat, I mean, she doesn't look depressed. I can't really see her face, but I'm seeing someone who I'm not seeing someone who jumps out to me as somebody who's about to decide that her life is no longer worth living.
Yeah. And to go along with that, she had ordered a car seat. The car seat had arrived that day. She got it. Let people see this part. This is the most important part.
Now, this is, let's see, the time here is 17:46.
But it's actually 14 minutes fast.
Okay. So 17:30.
About, yeah. And one of the other things that I want you to know.
This is what, 6, my math is terrible. What is this? 7 p.m.? 6, what time?
5,
what
I believe.
5 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, so
Told you my math
about
is
5:30. If you
so
notice,
5:30. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
Notice her hand when she gets into the elevator. She's taking her phone
Pulls out her phone.
pocket, and she
Yeah.
This girl was on her phone all the time, texting and talking to people. She would get in trouble at her job because she would do that. So,
all right. So this is just a few hours later.
Yes.
And then this figure walks in, this very ominous figure walks in. And he's wearing a mask, so that's not too suspicious considering that it's COVID, it's cold.
But it is suspicious for him.
It's suspicious for him. We'll get to that in a second here. And you know, he's right. Now explain, even though it's COVID and it's cold, explain why it's suspicious.
I've been told he's an anti-masker, so he would not be wearing a mask. Obviously, you know, in Massachusetts, you had to wear masks when you went into certain places, but he would have probably elected not to. And if you notice the way he walked in with his hood up, his head down, so you could not tell who he was. And I believe he was he's a very, very tall guy. So I think he was trying to make himself look smaller.
Now, here's the kicker. This is what's going to fuck everybody up here because this fucked me up. He later admits that was him. Yes. Matthew Farwell later admits that that's him on that video.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes. He said he went there to break up with her and they got into a nasty fight and then he left and he deleted everything from his phone, all contact, all texts, everything. Basically erased her from his phone. And guess who did the search on his phone from the Massachusetts from MSP?
Okay, wait. God, this the guy who's last name that I can't pronounce, but the same guy from Karen Reed.
Nick Guarino.
Guarino.
Yes.
I like to say his name like that. Guarino. Yes.
And he could not find anything on his phone, just like that search from Jennifer McCabe and the deleted phone calls and texts.
Of course he couldn't.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because again, and I mean, I already found this guy shady as hell because before the trial, because he submits a report of Karen Reed's vehicle. It's his job to check the vehicle or to check the tech in her vehicle for information. He says that he could not retrieve any tech from her vehicle, yet he still determines that it's his determination that Officer John O'Keefe was the victim of vehicular homicide, even though he was unable to retrieve any information from her vehicle. How could he make that determination? It makes no sense that he could make that determination when the only thing that he focuses on is the tech, and he couldn't retrieve any tech from it. So how can he make that determination? Makes no sense.
And why is he the only one who can't retrieve deleted messages from with Celebrite when all law enforcement across the country are able to retrieve these things?
Right. Yeah.
So how is he the expert? Or is it convenient? I'm asking a question that I already know the answer to, or is it just convenient that he can't?
Well, I think Meatball Morrissey has a group of misfits that he keeps close and handles certain things just to keep appearances. He's got a cleanup crew who handles everything. So you've got this Guarino dude who handles tech, and then he goes, oh yeah, I couldn't find anything where it's all gone. I don't know. So let's fast forward a little bit to the or actually let's rewind. So we see the video. We see that and it later on becomes known because Farwell admits that it's him. Matthew Farwell admits that this is him, says that there's a fight, whatever. That all comes out later. But before we even get into that, before we get to that point, so how long before they realize, and how did they realize that Sandra Birchmore was no longer with us?
So this happened on February 1st, and on February 4th, because she worked in the school, they asked for a wellness check because she hadn't shown up to work from the 1st to the 4th, or I should say from the 3rd.
What did she do for work?
She was the teaching assistant.
Okay.
So Monday the 1st was when she was murdered, and then on the 4th is when they found her.
So she was in school then.
Monday, I can't remember if they had.
No, I mean generally she was enrolled in school, right?
No,
to
she
some
was
degree.
Assistant in the Sharon.
But she had to have done some sort of college training.
Yeah, she went to college. She went to UMass Amherst, I believe it was.
See, that's why I'm pointing this out, is because so here you have this person who, again, this is very shady to me because you're trying to tell me that she committed suicide. Bullshit. Because now I understand somebody who just feels like their life is completely worthless, but she's showing every sign of someone who takes value in her life, even though she's being abused, even though she's been groomed and she's being abused. She's lost every loved one in her life to some degree, except for her aunt. And even still, she's separated from her aunt at some point, but at a healthy enough age. But she's got nobody anymore, but yet she picks herself up by her bootstraps and finishes school, enrolls in college, becomes a teacher's assistant, trying to basically, I mean, she's taking the steps and she's on the road to becoming a teacher herself, correct?
Well, she ended up wanting to be a nurse. That's what she was gonna.
Okay.
She was actually gonna enroll into a program in the spring.
Okay,
she
so
decided- but
so she's exploring her options, and she's, I
Yeah.
mean, she's young enough to where but again, that's not somebody who feels sorry for herself and blames the world for her problems. This is not the suicidal type at all. This
she
is
was
someone,
looking for the future. She was looking forward to her future.
every action that she's taken so far indicates that seems to indicate that it was in some way, shape, or form with the vision of a future.
Yes. And she was telling everybody how excited she was about this baby. And she had plans she was 10 weeks pregnant when she died. In 2 weeks, she was planning on doing like a big reveal of her pregnancy. She had her friend paint her a photo so she could say it said something about my very own little Valentine. So she had plans to make a grand
Can y'all
announcement.
still hear me? Because she's frozen.
Oh. Am I back?
Oh, there you are.
Okay. My internet sometimes gets wacky up here. Sorry.
Mine too.
She was making plans to make a grand announcement, and she was telling all her family and friends how excited she was to be pregnant. She had lunch with her cousins. I think 2 weeks before, I just found out she was at a family gathering, a wedding, and she was telling people there that she was pregnant. She was so excited to have this baby. So that's one of the other reasons why I don't believe she did this to herself, because she wanted this child. And also on top of it, her and Matthew had broken up many times, and he would text her and they would break up. So that's also makes it fishy, as why was he there? I always ask that question. Why was he there? His wife was in the hospital to have a baby the next morning. She had a scheduled C-section. But I believe because of the snow.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. The next day he had his baby.
So his wife had to have been in labor to some degree.
Well, she was having a C-section on the next day, that Tuesday. I believe she was in the hospital because of the snowstorm. So they would be in the hospital for her to have the baby.
Okay, so she wasn't necessarily in labor, but they could have set a date and said, we're going to, if this is the due date and we're performing a C-section and getting the baby out at this date.
And I think they brought her in the hospital the night before just because of the snowstorm, so she wouldn't have to drive in the snow. So he had a baby the next day. And I this is me assuming, but I believe, because his wife did know. I believe.
See, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, he's okay.
Business.
Right.
No, I'm not insinuating that she said go kill this girl, but I believe she said you need to get rid of the child. We're having a baby tomorrow, and I'm not dealing with this.
So you're saying that Farwell's wife knew about Sandra.
Yes.
How long did she know about her? How long did she know that was going on between them?
Her friend told me, I can't remember if it's 2018 or 17, that her and Sandra had a confrontation about them. So we've been told a totally different story than what is actually going on, because her friend stopped talking to her in 2019. So it was either 2017 or 18 that the wife found out about them hooking up.
But she was still babysitting their kid since then?
No, not after that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's where I got confused. I'm like, so the wife knew. All right. So
Sandra showed up at their house and she said, you need to leave my family alone. You need to leave. This is what her friend told me the other night. And his brother told his wife that she was pregnant. So William went and told Matthew's wife that Sandra was pregnant.
What a shit show. So what would be his rationale for doing that?
Well, I Well,
Is he trying to covet the wife?
no, I think because her friend told me that they kind of would fight over her. And also, I believe if you look at some of the stuff from the internal report, I believe that they were trafficking her. William was having her have sex with other men and send the videos and photos. And so he was asking her for videos of her having sex with other men. He introduced her to a military recruiter. I don't have this person's name. And also, he introduced her to Joshua Heel, who was an animal control officer at the Stoughton Police Department, who later went on to become an Abington police officer.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So, and I believe that there are other police officers, because in the report, they said, actually, I don't think it was the report. It was it was actually the Boston Globe reported this. It was from the Post Commission. It was in the report for them. Said that, how did they say it? That he was having her take pictures of her with a Stoughton police officer. They would have just said with Matthew or Divine. They wouldn't have said a Stoughton police officer. And her friend told me that she believes that there was at least one other police officer. She just didn't know who it was.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. So there's a weird situation with them. And William was looking himself up in the system where you look up, where you can look up somebody's address or phone up, their person's information. He was looking himself up. That's weird. Why would a police officer be looking himself up? And he looked up Sandra also. That's one of the things that they were talking about on that last hearing.
Okay.
So he was looking. The only reason why a police officer would look themselves up is to find out, is there an investigation into me? There would be no other reason.
Oh my God.
There would be absolutely no other reason for him to look himself up.
All right. So let's get into the investigation.
Okay.
So let's start from when so someone called in a wellness check because she didn't show up to work as a teacher's assistant.
Yeah.
So her colleagues were worried about her.
Yes.
So they performed a wellness check because it's not like her to not show up.
Yes. The police performed a wellness check.
How many days of work did she miss? Just the one?
No. She died on the 1st. She didn't show up to work on the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th.
Okay. So of course. All right. So then they haven't heard nothing from her.
Nope.
Someone probably of course they tried calling her. I would imagine that somebody might have even gone as far as to knock on her door, and they just didn't. They saw her car most likely. I'm just speculating here. So I'm imagining why they got to a point to where they called a wellness check is probably because they were like, okay, well, we haven't heard from her. It's not like her to take off of work. We went to her house. We saw her car there. We knocked on the door. She's up there.
They didn't go to her house. The police went there, and they went and knocked on her door. She didn't answer the door. Officer Lank, another familiar person, he was the supervisor on duty. So Officer Cotard, Yeaton, and Brady, they called him, and he said to go check her car, and her car had tons of snow on top of it. And they knew that the snow stopped on the 2nd, and it was now the 4th. So then they went and got the keys.
Right. All the other cars had been cleaned off because they're being used.
Yeah. Hers, you could tell, had been sitting there for days. They got the Officer Lang, Sergeant Lang, told them to go get the keys and go into her apartment. Officer Cotard was the first one in, and they looked around her apartment. They noticed her bedroom door was shut. He opened her bedroom door, and he found her in a seated position on the floor. And she had a ligature around her neck and a ligature tied around her closet door handle. It's a handle, not like a knob. It's not like the round knob. It's like the handle that you push down. I've always thought that was a little weird because handles, if you slide forward, you're gonna push. It's gonna open. But anyway, so he closed the door, and they left their apartment. They closed it up, and they called Lank, and Lank and Officer Detective McCourt both showed up, and they went in. They went in to go look at the scene. Now, when you look at the reports from the Canton Police Department, they're very weird because I only have 4 reports, so I don't have a report from Brady. Officer Yeaton said the ligature was a scarf. Officer McCourt, Detective McCourt says it was a strap, a black strap. And Officer Cotard says it was either a string or a rope, or I can't remember if it's a belt or something else. So he says 4 things, which is weird. Like, and
well,
then
that's what I'm saying is how could there not be? We're talking about the actual object that was
Yes.
the cause of death. How could there be more than one possibility of what this was when she's discovered by police? That makes no sense. So police discover her in this position, and nobody has a consistent story as to what the object was that caused the strangulation.
Yes. And to top, I think Lank's is the best. Lank doesn't describe what he saw. He says what Officer Cotard saw, and he doesn't even say what Cotard said. So he says it's a black strap like McCourt said. That's not what...
See, that's where I get confused, though, because, I mean... oh, my God, because if it's up in the air as to what was used, then that would imply that there's a major possibility that the police, the responding officers set up the scene. Possibly. Right? I mean, I don't want to make that accusation, but why would, I mean, that's beyond just that could be beyond just that. It could just be really bad negligence. But I mean, how do you not pay attention to the actual object? And how does that leave your mind? Like, if I walk in on that, I don't care how many years I have as a police officer, if I see a pregnant woman who's died this way, and even if it's a suicide, I don't think I'm going to be so desensitized to the things that I'm seeing, especially in a town like Canton, because Canton is not a crime-ridden city.
Yeah, it's not.
So I don't think I'm going to be right. And were there no crime scene photographs taken? That's a great point.
There were crime scene photographs taken. I can't get my hands on them.
So how could they not know what was around her neck? That makes no sense.
That's why, like, when you see things that are blatantly, like, say, what the fuck, you know, when you say something is wrong here. And I don't even know what Massachusetts State Police says, because they redacted what they say. So we can't even, like, look at what they said. They redacted it. They redacted everything saying like her being pregnant, and so that's when you start saying there's something wrong with this case. If 5 officers can't even determine, it's like they're grown-ass men, you know, one of them's a detective and one's a sergeant, and none of them can be consistent with each other to say what the ligature was. There's something wrong with this case.
Mike B has a great question. I completely agree with you. That's, oh my God, that's infuriating. So Mike B has a good question here saying, didn't Lank and Kevin Albert handle the CPD part? So I don't, the reason why I highlighted this, besides the fact that it's a super chat, is because I don't want misinformation spread around. So I was their involvement initially by
No. Blank was
okay.
the supervisor on duty. The 3 officers showed up. He advised them. He's the one who said, go in and see if she's in there. And once they found her, they closed up her apartment and left and waited for him to show up. He was not the person who found Sandra.
Okay.
It was the patrolmen who found her,
Okay.
not Blank. And when it comes to Kevin Albert, he went on the 6th, which is 2 days after her death, to go there, and they retrieved the surveillance video, which I've been thinking about lately. Why was Canton Police there to retrieve the video? Because the Massachusetts State Police showed up also. So if the Massachusetts State Police were
and
already
they handle homicides,
it's like why were they there? They're not supposed to be part of it. It would be different if they were like telling them to canvass the apartments, go knock on apartments and take statements.
Well,
that would be different. But why are they showing up to retrieve the surveillance when Fanning and other Massachusetts State Police were always also showing up to retrieve the video? So it kind of makes no sense. But Kevin Albert was there on the 6th to retrieve the video with Lank and McCourt, and he went up into the apartment. They were turning the apartment over. They did do some investigating.
Now that's where I get hazy, because I know that, and I hate to interrupt you, but I can't continue unless we get past this point right here. I know that through the Karen Reed trial, we know that the Canton Police were like, well, we don't handle homicides. But since it was determined as suicide, does that mean that the Canton Police don't handle any dead bodies at all? Automatically, it's Massachusetts State Police?
Yeah.
Because they would have to be the ones that determine, and I'm just saying this for not just myself, but anybody who might be confused. So, I mean, it would still have to be the Massachusetts State Police to show up, and they would have to be the ones to determine whether or not it's a suicide or a homicide, correct?
Yes. And they did.
So why in the hell was Kevin Albert involved in Kevin Albert and Lank involved at this point on the 6th? That makes no sense.
Yeah. The more I keep thinking about it, it's weird that they were there. Yes, the apartment manager did reach out to Lank, but he sent the information because a witness came forward to her, and she's like, I don't know what to do with this. Call the police. And so she gave, but Lank should have given that information to the Massachusetts State Police. To me, why were Canton even there? It's weird. Like I said, it was an unattended death. So any unattended death they have to look into. But they had determined early on that they believed it was a suicide. And they were already in the reports, they were already saying suicide before the pathology report came back. Was there before it was fully put out there by the medical examiner. I mean, I'm sure the medical examiner said, yeah, it's suicide to them, but it wasn't saying it in the reports yet. There was nothing reflecting in the reports quite yet. It wasn't on her death certificate that it was a suicide at that point. So I don't understand why the Canton Police were there. And also a disgusting side note. The name of the case from the Massachusetts State Police is called the Black Light Case.
Wow.
That's disgusting. And it's highly inappropriate for the Massachusetts State Police to be naming her case the Black Light Case. Because that's along with what they were doing to Karen. They're treating her like she's a whore and she's disgusting.
But I don't get the reference. Why the black light case?
Because there were so many men, they had to use a black light to see stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is just incredibly unprofessional.
It is.
I mean, there's clearly a pattern. Oh my God. Let's watch this real quick and we'll get just to sidetrack a little bit because I want to get into this. Now, this is from a month ago. And I want to hear your thoughts on this.
New developments in a disturbing case involving the Stoughton Police Department. Investigators found 3 former officers had inappropriate relations with Sandra Birchmore. She's a young pregnant woman who died a few years ago. Her death ruled a suicide. But the Boston Globe is now reporting a prominent forensic pathologist hired by her family is now calling it a homicide. NBC 10's Mary Marcos joining us live from the Stoughton Police Department. More on what this report could mean for the Birchmore case. Mary.
Well, not only could this change the entire nature of the case, we are also learning that this was investigated under the same Massachusetts State Police unit as the Karen Reed case.
Now people are starting to see what.
Oh, look! I didn't even know you were in this.
It was murder.
Yes, Melissa Mizzy runs social media pages seeking justice for the 23-year-old pregnant woman who was found dead in her apartment in February of 2021.
Basically, have been like trying to create a groundswell online to get people to realize that this young woman did not kill herself in her baby.
Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide, but a forensic pathologist hired by her family is now calling it a homicide, according to the Boston Globe. The family's attorney and Dr. Michael Baden's office declined to release that report to us.
Especially since a lot of people are putting eyes on the Karen Reed case, I am now able to piggyback off that.
Massachusetts State Police confirming it's the same unit but different officers as the Karen Reed case.
It's the same DA, it's the same Massachusetts State Police unit.
A 2022 investigation found 3 former Stoughton police officers had inappropriate relationships with Sandra after meeting her through the department's Youth Explorers program.
If there are more out there, hopefully they're going to start feeling safe to come out and say something.
Officer Matthew Farwell was 27 and Sandra 15 when the two began a physical relationship, which lasted until days before her death.
I'm hoping that this will bring some
death.
I mean, look at that guy. What a fucking asshole. This guy just looks like an asshole.
When the two began a physical relationship, which lasted until days before her death.
I'm hoping that this will bring some justice to Sandra because she deserves justice, and so does the baby that she was carrying.
Now, those 3 Stoughton officers have denied any wrongdoing and could not be reached for comment. Live in Stoughton, Mary
denied any wrongdoing? See,
yeah.
That's not even what this was. Hold on a second. So the reason why I played that, I didn't even realize you were in that clip, by the way, but great job.
Thank you.
But the whole point was the titles talking about this, the police chief. And I was hoping to get that quote. Hold on. This one should have that. Unless this is the same one. No, that's the same. That's the same one I just
They
played.
did like 2 different versions of that report.
All right. Now this is News Nation, and just a quick reminder, guys. Mizzy will be on Ashley Banfield on News Nation tonight. I don't know if it's live. You said it would be, right?
Yeah.
But that's at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight. So keep your eye out for that, guys.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be her. I guess she's on vacation, but I don't care.
No, I mean,
I'm on the show, you know.
Right. As long as they're getting it out there.
Exactly.
So let's watch this piece from a month ago from News Nation real quick.
I want to bring in Robert Anzalotti. He's a retired chief of detectives from Bergen County, New Jersey. Okay, Robert, I'm really confounded here because I'm sort of confused about two crimes in two jurisdictions. There's one police department where these allegations that three
Now, just so you know, if you ever need me, if you get a thought that you don't want to dismiss, just tell me to pause and I'll pause.
Okay.
cops were passing this kid around and sexually abusing her, right? And then there's this other police department that is investigating her death from a so-called suicide that now one of the best in the business says was not a suicide at all. Where do we go from here? Should cops who are so close to these communities really be investigating this?
So that's always, Ashley, first, thanks for having me on. Second, always a big question, right? The public demands answers. A lot of, over the years, our internal affairs process is geared towards the idea that police should be policing their own. We should be able to clean up our own backyard, so to speak. But in more recent times, especially in the wake of George Floyd, I think increasingly the public demands independent outside investigations to ensure the integrity of the outcome of these types of cases. So in this instance, I think you have the Massachusetts State Police that are involved. You have Stoughton that's involved with the internal affairs investigation into the grooming and sexual assault of this young girl. And then you have Canton with the death investigation. So
But
a lot
what
of
about
hands in the
FBI?
pot here.
Like that's what I go
and
to,
now-
right? I even think state police, at this point, maybe might be too close. Like, and there is where the FBI is looking at this, and they don't talk. It's really hard to find out where they are with this case. But it feels like this should be.
Well, the feds can't get involved unless they're requested to get involved, or unless they have to investigate them.
Well, it's also the same thing as what's going on in the John O'Keefe case. They are investigating, and they're investigating the corruption behind.
Oh, yeah. That's a different conversation. But I'm saying, based on what she's saying right here, she's going, well, why it seems inappropriate that people so close to the case would be investigating almost their own, but there's red tape. I mean, that's what makes America America. And then we seem to see a lot of this. You seem to see a lot of twisting of the Constitution in order to cover their own bullshit up, because what they don't want is an outside entity looking in, which is exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as what you're talking about, and definitely, I mean, it's naive at this point. If Josh Levy's U.S. Attorney's Office is currently investigating Michael Morrissey and his Norfolk County DA's office, it's naive to think that they're just looking at the Karen Reed, Officer John O'Keefe case. They're going to be looking at everything that Michael Morrissey's office is doing. And this case definitely falls into that. And I guarantee that they're putting the dots together a lot better than any of us would.
Yeah. I can confirm that it's been said that they are looking into Sandra's case 100%.
They would have to.
I want to say something about the Massachusetts State Police, this unit investigating this case. Just like in the Karen Reed case, how Michael Proctor should not have been on this case. John Fanning should not have been on this case. He's a former Stoughton police officer. He worked in there with Robert Devine, and he was there when the Farwells were going through the Explorers program. I don't know.
So there is a conflict of interest of
Big
Fanning.
Big
I
time.
did not know that. Okay, that's really important, because I was thinking, okay, well, we know that there's a conflict of interest as far as Kevin Albert being involved in the investigation into Officer John O'Keefe's death, but where's the conflict of interest in this case, if there is one? What, if any, is the conflict of interest here? And that would definitely be it. If Fanning was a Stoughton police officer at one point, and he was that close to the Explorers program.
I don't know if he worked on the Explorers program, but he was there when the Farwells were going through the program. So he would have probably.
And you said that he had a connection to who?
He worked there when Robert Devine was working there.
Okay.
So He left the Stoughton Police Department. He was only there a few years, I believe, in 2005. Well, that was when the Farwells were going through the program. They started the program in late 2001 or 2002. So he was working there when they were going through the program. And Robert Devine was working there. So him and Robert Devine worked together. He should have never been looking into this case.
Yeah, that's clearly a conflict of interest. Oh my God. This is wild.
Should be only a job now for the FBI, given that we've got 2 jurisdictions. And P.S., something that really bothers me is that the Stoughton police chief today, not involved in any of this, right? She's new. She's upset about this. She thinks the highest level should be investigating this. And these 3 officers were never charged with any of these grooming allegations, even though she says it looks like it happened. And I'm wondering if they weren't charged with it because she's dead. Like, they've got text messages, but they don't have the actual victim.
Yeah, so it sounds like it didn't come to light until after the death of this young girl. And of course, there's an old saying in the criminal justice world, no victim, no crime. But I would argue that in this case, if they really do have the evidence via text message, and there really is, even if it's circumstantial, there is a case to be brought, at least against Matthew Farwell, who, by all accounts, began having sex with this girl when she was 15 years old. That's statutory rape. It's that simple. Statutory rape is a per se violation. That is a strict liability violation. It does not matter whether you believe she was underage, not. It's just a strict liability. You either did or did not. If you can prove that he had sex with her when she was 15 years old, he's guilty.
Yeah. And by the way, there are the text messages saying so. But here's the thing. He's also on video, the last person likely to have seen her going into her apartment and coming out of her apartment. I think he's in there for around 20 minutes. And then she's found mysteriously dead, barely hanging with, the hyoid bone is problematic. It looks like it's not a suicide. I'm going to have you back because I kind of feel like there's a lot of noise on this case now, especially since the Karen Reed case was so close.
Oh, we're just
and I feel like
started.
this March is probably going to generate some heat. So we'll have to have you back to see if anything actually comes of it. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, we're just getting started, Ashley Banfield.
Tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ashley.
Robert Anzalotti joining us live tonight, Chief of Detectives, retired from Bergen County. And I want you to know, like, if you or anybody you know has been a victim of sexual assault, there's help available anytime. Just check these numbers out. Take a picture of your screen, the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-4673 or 1-800-656-HOPE. Again, take a picture of the screen.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your...
Okay. This is just wild, man. So and what are your thoughts? That's why I played this. What are your thoughts on the police chief, the Stoughton police chief, and her being so outraged and disgusted? Because I'm hearing a lot of mixed signals from people as far as their feelings about her.
I have mixed feelings about it. Of course, you want any police chief to come out and say these things, but is she paying lip service or is she really backing this investigation? I personally think the internal report did not go far enough. I personally believe they should have went to every child that went through that program to see if they could get witnesses and to see if anybody else this had happened to anybody. I mean, I get not wanting to traumatize other victims, but they need to know if other children were hurt. And I feel like that they just stopped short of continuing the investigation. They stopped with just these 3 men, well, technically four officers and the recruiter. They passed that off to the military. But I just feel like that they didn't go far enough in their investigation, and that's on the chief. She had the ability to continue the investigation. She had the ability to do a deeper dive. Now, they did a pretty good report for what they looked into.
Wow.
And I do know from talking to, because from doing standouts there, I talk to an officer there to let them know that that we're doing a standout. It's just a respect thing for each other, you know. And the first time I talked to him, he said he was disgusted that this happened. He's outraged, and he's so glad that we're continuing to stand up for her, you know, because they turned their report over to the Massachusetts State Police. Whether we look at the Stoughton Police have such an issue because they're the ones who, you know, allowed this to happen. Their bosses and the you know, the select board, they have oversight over the police. So they allowed these men to do this without figuring out the crime. But they did their report. They gave it to the Massachusetts State Police, and the Massachusetts State Police did nothing with it. And because I've been doing a lot of talking to a lot of people, I've discovered that the investigation, I mean, I already thought it was, but the investigation that the Massachusetts State Police was bullshit. It was bull crap. They didn't, the only people they reached out to were people who called them. They went to the
they didn't conduct any investigation at all. So it's very much like the John O'Keefe investigation in the sense that they didn't question anybody inside 34 Fairview, some at all, some for days, some for months, some for even years.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have this, so you just have an investigation that just didn't actually happen.
They spoke to people, but they only spoke to the people who called them. They
took no initiative on their own to do any real investigation.
They talked to her coworkers because her workplaces who called in to get, you know, they spoke to her aunt. But I've talked to a few really close friends of hers, and they've never been contacted. And in a case like this, talking to her aunt is all well and good. I'm glad they spoke to her, but a parent or you know, a young woman's authority figure like her aunt, she's not going to tell her anything, but you damn sure she's telling her friends.
Sure.
You want to find out what's going on in her life, you go talk to her friends.
The problem with that is that there's hearsay with that, you know, and like, even though you and I look at that as that's where you're going to get the reliable information, that's the kind of thing that they're going to go, well, that's just hearsay. You know what I mean? Police, what do you mean? You know what I mean? And then they're just going to discredit those people.
But they could have, if they were doing a real investigation, they would have talked to her friends, taken that information in, and tried to, okay, let's find the evidence from what these people have told us. They had no interest in doing that. None at all.
That's clearly wow. And people are saying that you're the turtle boy of the Sandra Birchmore case. And I mean, I gotta say, you're the one who's in the forefront, bringing all of this to light, and you have been. And guys, I need you all, everybody watching right now, to stop what you're doing. Okay, stop whatever you're doing. Go to the pinned comment in the chat and click on Mizzy's channel and subscribe to it. I'm sure you're going to have, there's already some content in there that's informative as far as this case goes. Where would you say, I mean, you have your YouTube channel as well, but where would people find the most information from you, your thoughts and your discoveries? Where would people find the bulk of that?
Well, we have
where are you most active?
I'm most active on Facebook and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. But we have a website for her now. It's justiceforsandrabirchmore.com. People can go there and they can find the Facebook page and the Twitter page. They can find it all from there. And we're just trying to pump out as much information as we can. And if you're local, please come to our standouts because we need the numbers. We do have a core group that does come and stand out with us. We do like one a month. That's all I can physically do. Although this month we're gonna do two. We are going to Michael Morrissey's fundraiser on Thursday. We're joining Sandra Birchmore. Karen Reed protesters on Thursday. There is Michael Morrissey is doing a fundraiser to raise money for what I don't know. So we're all going to go protest there.
Probably a ticket to some obscure country that you could jump on the run.
But if you're local, please come join us. We have a standout on the 25th of August in Canton. We normally do them in Stoughton, but we're switching it up a little bit. Ours is in Canton. We do it from 2 to 5. Come join us. We have signs. If you don't have a sign, that's fine. We have signs, or you can make your own. Just buy a piece of poster board and write something.
Is this the Peter Murphy? I love this guy.
Me too.
I love this guy. Yes. He's saying, Will, we ain't got no quit for Sandra or Karen. Wait for us. And thank you for being here, Peter Murphy. It's an honor.
Yes.
That you're here in the chat.
Peter comes to a lot of the standouts.
I see. I got to piggyback off of everything that you just said and everything that Peter Murphy just said here. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Just like you cannot properly tell the Officer John O'Keefe / Karen Reed story without telling the Turtle Boy story. You cannot tell that story properly without telling the Turtle Boy story. You cannot tell the Officer John O'Keefe, Karen Reed story properly without telling the Sandra Birchmore story. It can't be done. The core issue here is not just that Karen Reed is being framed or that Karen Reed just simply didn't do this. That is not the core issue here, although it is extremely important. But the core issue here is the corruption. The core issue is the local corruption taking place. And if you're fighting and you're standing out and you're showing up and you're protesting against this corruption, then please show up for the Sandra Birchmore standouts if you're local. Please, I promise you that I'm going to continue. I hope to have you on here as a regular and talk about this case as often as possible because I respect your tenacity in getting the word out on this case so much. And I wanted to make sure that I told you before we got started here that that there's a method to my madness here. So while we're waiting for stuff with the Karen Reed stuff, because that's what everyone's talking about, if you guys need something to chew on in the meantime, while we're waiting for the next court date, please focus on the Sandra Birchmore stuff. Spread the word on the Sandra Birchmore stuff. Use your social media to spread the word on the Sandra Birchmore stuff. If you're on Facebook, please go join the Facebook group. Share information. Talk about this stuff around the water cooler at work. Even if you're not local, talk about this stuff with your loved ones around the dinner table, whatever. Just make sure that you keep Sandra Birchmore's name out there and synonymously with Karen Reed and Officer John O'Keefe, because those cases are absolutely connected when it comes to the corruption in Norfolk County. It's very, very, very important. So please be just as loud if you can about Sandra Birchmore as you are about Karen Reed and Officer John O'Keefe. I cannot stress that enough. That's why I'm going to continue talking about this. I am so grateful that there's so many of you watching right now. I didn't even have to tag Karen Reed's name or John O'Keefe's name to get people to watch this. There's already a lot of people that respect you and know you and everything that you've been doing. But the fact that you're getting the kind of press coverage that you're getting now, is really, really important, and we all have to stand by Mizzy, guys, and support her in what she's been doing, because she is the backbone of getting Sandra Birchmore's name kept out there in the public. So I am so grateful to you for everything that you've been doing, and I'm so grateful to you for joining me here and talking with all of us, because I feel so much more educated, and exactly what I was hoping to happen happened, where I am much more educated on this. I still have a lot to learn on this case, but I am invested, absolutely 100% invested at this point. And I really hope that we can get loud together here on this channel, and we'll do stuff on your channel as well, and get your people watching your channel, because YouTube can be very, very effective. So I'm no longer on Facebook, so I can't help you there, but here on this platform, I could do the best that I can do.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. And you guys watching, thank you guys for watching. And again, please be just as loud about this case as you are with the Officer John O'Keefe case, because if the issue is corruption, you can't just talk about the Karen Reed case. If you're trying to effectively spread the word and stop the corruption that's taking place in Norfolk County and in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you got to talk about this case. There's no way around it. Mizzy, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night and let you get psyched up to school everybody on News Nation. And we'll all be tuned in for that. We'll all be watching that. I'll stream it later. I don't think I'll be streaming it tonight, but I'll stream it later.
Okay.
But Mizzy, thank you so much for joining. I really
thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for watching. Just people being here helps. His boosts him, and every time he gets boosted, it'll help me get the word out more about Sandra's case. And I appreciate you having me on tonight. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure again. Thank you so much, Mizzy. All right, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. All right, guys. You guys, that was Mizzy. She's fantastic. I'm really grateful to you guys for joining. I did not expect to have this big of a crowd in the chat. So you guys joining and listening, please, I hope this resonated with you as much as it did with me. And I hope we can get all of the other YouTube creators that have been talking about the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case to talk about this case as well. It's very, very important. But you guys are fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys. Make sure to hit the like on your way out if you haven't already. And make sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And thank you guys for all of the support. You guys are amazing. I love you guys very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.